Well, hello, Rand Fishkin. Thank you so much for making some time to talk to us.
Yeah, my pleasure, Mitra. Good to be here.
Wonderful. So, the idea for this conversation was really sparked by a blog post that you shared recently about zero-click searches. Before we get into some of the data points, can you just briefly define that for us?
Yeah, so a zero-click search, my understanding is Gabriel Weinberg of DuckDuckGo was the first person to coin this. It means a search that ends without a click on another website or another location in the search results. And there's some fine points around that, Mitra. Like, for example, if I search Google and then I click on one of the maps links and it auto opens inside the interface of Google, does that count as a click? Should it be treated as a click, or is it just expanding? What if I click on one of the little questions and it drops down a little bit of information, but I'm still inside the search result? So there's some quibbles about exactly what it means. For the study we're going to be talking about today, we refer to zero click as a click that takes you off of Google's search result.
Okay. Okay. So make sure I'm saying these figures right. So what you found is that in the US, for every 1,000 searches on Google, only 360 clicks made it to a non-Google owned or non-Google ad paying property. So about 2/3 of those searches then stay inside the Google ecosystem after making a query. And the numbers were a little bit higher in the EU. I understand for every 1,000 searches on Google, about 374 go to the open web. First of all, do I have those right?
Yep, you've got them exactly
Okay.
right.
And then why does this matter?
Well, it depends on who you are. If you're the Department of Justice in the United States, you might be very interested in Google's self-preferencing behavior. The EU Commission is also really interested in Google's self-preferencing behavior. If you're a publisher or a creator, someone who's trying to get traffic from Google, this might help you understand why you're seeing a rise in the number of searches over time, a rise in the volume of interest around your topic, and yet even if you're ranking highly or ranking for more and more keywords, your traffic numbers are staying similar. This is also, I think, of interest to a lot of businesses who might be considering whether to put their eggs in the Google basket from a marketing perspective, or whether they want to consider other channels and opportunities outside of Google.
Okay, very interesting. Well, certainly this is an important topic, I know. So you talked a bit about then that there needs to be zero-click content that provides value without the need for a click. Explain a bit more about that, because to me that seems a little bit counterintuitive. Like, how are you ever going to get the traffic to your site if you're putting it all out there?
Sure. Well, I'll give you a real simple example of this. Let's say you search for what is the best rice for Italian risotto. You could find a bunch of results in Google that would take you to another website. Maybe Food and Wine has a list of their favorite rices. Maybe there's a list from La Cucina Italiana. Maybe there's Bon Appetit has something. But Google might just answer the search right at the top, and they might say, the best rice as agreed upon by hundreds of chefs around the country is Acquarello from, whatever this region in Italy. And then you might not even bother clicking anything. You might just go to your Amazon cart and add Acquarello, or you might go to the grocery store. Maybe you're in the grocery store when you perform this search on your mobile phone and you go and pick up that rice. Not that Acquarello is found in most grocery stores, but what I'm saying here is that the content Google serves up as an answer to a search query is oftentimes just as valuable as the click you were going to get. It's just not attributable. It may
Okay.
lead to the same conversion event and behavior. It's just not attributable to exactly that search. And of course, for folks who are in organic marketing and Google SEO, as it's called, for a long time, Google hasn't told you what search term someone searched for when they send you referral traffic. You only know what page it landed on. So, I mean, I think we're moving away broadly in digital marketing from an attribution world to an attributionless world, a world where we have to do measurement based on lift, kind of like they did in the 20th century. But this trend of zero-click searches and zero-click content absolutely accelerates it.
And this is tied into, as you're giving that example with the risotto, which of course I'm not going to say it nearly as beautifully as you just did, but the AI overviews that you see at the
Yeah.
top now of many search, that's what we're talking about, right?
Well, that's only one of hundreds of different features that Google surfaces that answer a query. For example, if you, let's say you want to roll 4 6-sided dice at the same time, you might search for 4D6 in Google, and Google will automatically show you a little widget that rolls pretend dice for you and gives you an outcome. You got a 2, a 4, a 5, and a 1. Okay, great. That was a search that I performed intending to accomplish a function and get an answer, but I'm never going to click on anything. Think of
Right.
weather plus, your zip code, weather Miami, Florida today. And it says, okay, it's going to be 82 degrees and high humidity. You don't have
That's
to
all.
click anything,
Right.
right? This is just weather that's provided directly in the search results. What was the score of the Mariners Cubs game last night? And it says, oh, the Mariners lost 2-4. Okay, great. I don't need to do anything else. Some of those searches, you might say, they provide no value. I would argue that the weather search has taken away all the potential or a massive amount of the value from weather.com and Wonderground and all of these providers. I would argue the same thing with Google Flights and Google Hotels, that they've taken away, right? They've essentially made themselves the middleman for directing that traffic rather than passing it to the are they called OTAs?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Online travel agency. Very good.
Right.
Very good.
So those types of things that disintermediate results, I think it's very important for any business to pay attention to what Google's doing in their space, because when they eventually come for your space, it won't necessarily be through AI overviews. It could be through instant answers. It could be through widgets like a calculator or a dice roller or a weather or sports scores or Google Flights, hotels, maps. Google is entering more and more of these spaces. For a while, we saw them trying to do it with Google Health, right? They were
Yeah.
trying to answer medical queries directly in the results. They pulled back on that, of course. But this is just part of your job as a marketer, is to pay attention to these, identify the opportunities, and identify when opportunities are going away.
Well, so I'm curious specifically then for our audience in the travel space, what advice might you have for a travel company, a B2C travel company that has generally really relied on Google for traffic?
Yeah, I please don't do that too much in the future. I really worry about folks who have had historic success in Google and don't see the forest for the trees. And the forest is in every sector, in every space. Google is coming for your traffic. If not now, then eventually. And I think the one counter argument, the only counter argument to this is if you believe that the United States can elect and sort of push more aggressive antitrust activity, like
Okay.
the EU has tried to do, where they say, hey, Google, it is against antitrust law for you to use your monopoly in search to enter and unfairly compete in other spaces. But I don't want to take a bet on that, right? Like I think the world of Lena Khan. I think the FTC is doing a good job right now. I think the Department of Justice has their sights set on Google in the right kinds of places. But I don't have confidence that that is the solution to this problem, or that it's going to solve it overwhelmingly. And so if I were running marketing or the CEO of a travel company, I would be working extremely hard to build my brand loyalty among a niche customer set that I want to go after. And to do that, I would argue that I think one of the smartest things that, for example, airline companies or hotel brands have done, rental car agencies as well, all of them have basically made the experience so much better if you continually choose a single brand
Right.
over going to an OTA or to Google Flights and hotels and rental cars and choosing the lowest cost option, right? If for those of you who travel frequently, as I do with a lot of conferences and events, if you have your one rental car agency and you're a premier member and you can just walk right up and get your car instead of waiting in the line, if you are a loyal member of an airline and you can go do the same thing, and board the plane first and never have to worry about your carry-on baggage not fitting. You check into your hotel and you automatically get upgraded to whatever the nicest thing that they have available is, even though you paid for the low tier one. All of those kinds of loyalty options and arrangements, I think, are the way forward, right? You want to build your brand with your people and not rely on external channels. To me, it's all about that email list.
Yeah. And potentially the mobile app. I'm thinking about some brands that I'm fairly loyal to, and I have the app for that hotel company or that airline, and I'm going directly to that. Yeah, as you're talking, I think, the headline that's for this story that's going through my head is, maybe loyalty is the new digital marketing, strategy. Like loyalty
I would urge a lot of brands, not just in travel, but certainly in travel. I would urge them to take the bottom 25% of performance marketing dollars that they're spending on things like Google search, especially branded Google search. And I would redirect that toward loyalty efforts. I might be willing to lower my customer acquisition top of funnel, right? The total number of visits that I get in order to convert more of my email list to loyal customers, to reward loyal customers. I think one of the things that brands have a very hard time with, especially public companies, is investing in the long-term future. So Mitra, you and I know that if you, for 50 years, produce the best risotto in Italy, your brand is going to become eventually known. Acquarello doesn't do a lot of marketing. They don't have to do a lot of marketing. They have every Italian chef on the planet advertising for them, right? Because of the quality of the rice. I'm using them as an example again, just because it's convenient. But I would argue I'm a little bit the same way with certain travel brands that I love, even locations and destinations. And I've given this advice to chambers of commerce and cities and travel bureaus in various locations, right? That building up your brand with the people who are going to resonate with it the most, that's the way to go. This is why the marketing that I believe in the most is going to the places where your audience, your specific audience, already pays attention, and being present in those places with a message that resonates, as opposed to trying to do what we've kind of done in digital marketing for the last 20, 25 years, which is, well, let's be at the top of Google and let's get lots of social followers.
Right.
And then somehow get traffic from it.
It's kind of interesting. It's almost as things have gotten bigger and more complex, it's really more of a one-to-one relationship that can actually drive some of that conversion. That's kind of fascinating. I'm wondering, of course, one of the other things that we have been following closely and that everybody seems to be talking about, not just in travel, is what's happening with the LLM powered search platforms. And I'm just wondering, first of all, do you think Google is losing any of its share or its mojo because of that? And then I'd be curious what you think about visibility in LLM search.
Let's see. So we have data on millions of searchers via the clickstream panel that SparkToro, my company, uses and used for this zero-click search study, but also several of the other studies that we've done. For example, we did one earlier this year called "Who Sends Traffic on the Web?" Is there anybody who still sends referral, right? Because zero-click everything has gotten so big. And the answer is, despite all of these zero-click numbers that you're seeing, Google is still sending more than 2/3 of all referral traffic across the web. So, they're kind of the only game in town. Facebook wants to keep you on Facebook. Reddit wants to keep you on Reddit. Instagram wants to keep you on Instagram. TikTok obviously keeps all the people on TikTok. So it's tough to get traffic from any of those other sources. What I would say about the large language model disruption is that so far it doesn't appear in the mass market data. Right? Google's search market share continues to be as strong as it's ever been. the number of searches that people perform on Google is as high as it's ever been. When you seasonally adjust, at least the total number of Google searchers and searches as high as it's ever been. So I think there's, I don't mean to overgeneralize, but I think there's a healthy number of tech bros on LinkedIn who are telling you, hey, I've switched all my searching to Perplexity, to
Right.
ChatGPT, to Gemini, to whatever, and Google is dead for me. Well, okay, for you, maybe, but you're a very, very small percent of the world, kind of like DuckDuckGo was maybe 10 years ago, right? Privacy
Yeah.
first search seems very valuable and important, but not a lot of people adopted it. I think the same is true for LLMs. If we want to get
Yeah.
to the visibility question, like how do I be more visible in a large language model world?
Yes, for sure. Because I would assume it might be a little bit different potentially.
It,
It-
it is quite different. So, Google, well, one nice thing that folks may know, this again is something that came across my radar, but there was a leak, an API leak from Google a few months ago
yes.
that
Yes.
exposed all of the elements that Google uses in the ranking calculations. And that's sort of a miracle for people who work in SEO and something that everybody wanted for the last quarter century. And it's finally available. What it doesn't tell you is how much they weight each of those factors.
Okay.
But you can see that it's a broad algorithm. There's thousands of things in there, 14,014 different features to be precise. However, um, in the large language model world, what you're dealing with is essentially token prediction systems. So a large language model is essentially saying, oh, this word or phrase comes after this other word or phrase very frequently in the corpus of text that we have, which usually comes from the internet. And so, as you might imagine, if when someone searches for best hotel, reward point system, your hotel name frequently appears in all of the editorial pieces and news pieces and third parties writing about it and blogs and posts on Threads or LinkedIn or Reddit or YouTube. Probably less so Twitter. I think a lot of
Yeah.
LLMs don't want to train on Twitter because of what is happening there right now. But
Yeah.
identifying those places where large language models would want to train and are training, and then making sure that your brand is present around the words and phrases that you want to be associated with. That's the future of large language model optimization. Um,
Okay.
and it really speaks to a PR centric strategy, right? It's about product and brand and getting your name out there and getting your name associated with things and having press and media and sources of influence and small influencers and bloggers and social posters talk about you whenever they talk about the thing you want to be associated with.
Are we going to have a different little moniker for this in the future? This is it's not going to be SEO, maybe. Is it going to be? I've heard a few batted around and they're not coming to my mind right now, but is it going to be?
LLMEO,
Yeah.
EIEIO. I don't have a good theory on that one, but
Yeah.
my suspicion is that there will be some people who like to call it AIO, right? AI optimization or
Right. Right.
but it wouldn't surprise me too if AI or LLMs become the thing that replace classic forms of web searching, which I'm pretty skeptical about, to be honest. But if that happens, I think there's a lot of people who will just keep calling it SEO.
Yeah. Yeah. Habits are hard to break. Before we wrap up, I know we're getting tight on time. I just want to ask, you've touched on this a little bit as on some of these topics, certainly related to LLMs as far as the future. But as we think ahead, help us envision what digital marketing might look like maybe in 5 years, particularly framed for like of course, in our world, a travel brand, someone that is, trying to entice a consumer to make a booking, to come to a destination, to take some action.
Yeah, I strongly suspect 5 years from now, we're going to be more fully transitioned away from the classic attribution centric and click and link centric model that we as digital marketers have been trained on for the last 20 years. So that old world was, you go participate in whatever SEO or social media marketing or content marketing, email marketing, whatever the practice is. And through it, you attempt to get direct traffic where the source, whatever it is, Facebook or Reddit or YouTube or Google search or Google Hotels or Google Flights, sends you a visit, and then you can see where that visit came from. And you can hopefully try and attribute that visit to the same visitor across all the visits that they might have made or all the ads they might have been exposed to. Maybe you're using some fancy, sophisticated, sort of AI-based attribution software systems to try and piece that together. And my theory is that's going to go away. It's going to go away for a bunch of reasons, but some of the big ones are ad blockers are hugely popular and they block all the tracking activity. Multi-device journeys are standard, and even if you're using, sophisticated forms of, or browser fingerprinting, the multi-device journey is going to break that for you. The analytics programs, you can see Google Analytics getting much harder to use, especially around organic types of stuff on this. All of the ad platforms are going to be losing third-party cookies entirely once Chrome switches off it. Privacy laws in California and New York and Canada and the EU, of course, are making so all of that is just going to combine to make it so that maybe 2% of your visits you can really, really track down to every visit that they made. And attribution models are going to fail at that point. I think they're already failing, and people are just convincing themselves that they're real because they like to look at numbers and they've been trained to look at numbers. And instead, in 5 years, we're going to be looking at a world that works a lot like how, Coca-Cola did advertising in 1965 at Don Draper's ad agency, right? Which was, what's the message? Who's the consumer? Where can we reach that consumer? I don't know if you remember, there's one episode, Mitra, that stood out to me from a marketing perspective, where the guys at the advertising firm go and get the booklet, like the clients all sitting around the boardroom table in the pitch meeting, and they go and get the booklet. I think it was for Jaguar or something like that. And they say, oh, okay, well, you want to reach this particular rich kind of American male in these cities. These are the publications. We've got the demographic data. So we know that we're not going to be in Newsweek. We're going to advertise in Time magazine. We're not going to advertise in Car and Driver. We're going to advertise in Motor Trends. It was that kind of thing. We're going to advertise on this TV show, not that TV show.
Right.
This is where I think that form of data is going to be hugely valuable to where, an airline can say, we're targeting mid-market consumers who care more about comfort than price, but are not yet premium flyers. And we think that they are in these 22 cities, and these are the routes that are most popular with them. And then a marketer's job is going to be to say, okay, these are the websites they read. These are the social accounts they follow. These are the YouTube channels that they subscribe to. These are the subreddits they follow. These are the sources of influence for that audience. And here's how we're going to be present in all those places, paid or unpaid.
Wow. So it's kind of back to some fundamentals, it sounds like, what you're saying there. Yeah.
I mean, I think marketing, for all its sophistication and all the things that the internet can do, and we can be more data driven than, whatever an ad agency in 1965 was, the fundamental core of marketing is still a resonant message at the right time in front of the right people in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very interesting. Wow. Rand Fishkin, thank you so much for spending some time with me. Lots to talk about. I'd love to stay in touch. Maybe we can touch base again in the future. Super helpful information for everyone interested in digital marketing. So thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mitra.
All right. Bye-bye.